Today we're going to talk a little bit about styling the rich text element, and particularly in creating styles like red text or highlighted text, which is not currently an option in the rich text styling palette. You'll notice that if you look at a standard text field, there is the ability to wrap with a span and then to style the span any way you want. That is ideal. However, for some reason, Webflow does not yet support that on the rich text element. However, Webflow does have a couple of other styles that you can probably repurpose to do exactly this. So I'm going to show you how to create this kind of effect here, where I can have red text, color highlighted text, or other various text styling options. So let's have a look at how we can do that. Now, first off, you'll notice that in the current rich text editor toolbar, this is now September 2022, you have a series of formats here, which are paragraph formats. All of these heading formats and the block quote format are all paragraph formats. If I apply them, it will apply them to the whole paragraph. These formats here, bold, italics, superscript, subscript, and then links. Link is more of a functional formatted item. These are applied to the selected text only. These two, superscript and subscript, have been added fairly recently. I believe they were added this year, and I don't know why they were given priority. I personally never use them. So what we're going to actually do is repurpose these. Chances are you probably don't need them as much either, at least not as much as the ability for your client to make certain text red or highlighted to create a very visible message on their website when they need to. So let's look at how to do that. Here I've got a rich text element I dropped in. The very first thing I need to do is to give it a class. So I'm going to call it rich text box, just to give it a name. Doesn't really matter what it is, something that you're going to use as a standard name. Now that I've done that, I can now style subparts of the rich text element and have them applied only to this rich text element. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a superscript, and then I'm going to go ahead and create a subscript, and then I'm going to click off of, you'll see if I hover over it, I'm in edit mode. If I click off of it and then hover, I now have the ability to select those individual subparts for styling. So I'm going to select the superscript. I'm going to go over here to the selector. I'm going to create a new tag, and because I have classed the rich text element itself, there we go. I'm going to say I only want superscripts inside of this to be styled. Everything is pretty good. The defaults are generally fine. You can see it doesn't really tell you much in terms of how it has changed it into a superscript, and that's largely because the browser and the CSS are controlling that for you. What we want to do, however, is to immediately change the position to static. This will put it in line with the rest of the text, the way as we would want to normally. Second thing we want to do is fix the size. Now the size is actually, if I open typography here, is 16. That is not the size that is actually applied to this superscript item. Now for some reason, I cannot just click this and hit enter. What I can do is type 17. You can see it has changed it, and then change it back to 16. And what I've done is it's treating this now as an override on whatever size that it temporarily had. And right now it looks essentially identical to the adjacent text. That's exactly what we want. Now in this case, for this first one, I'm going to go ahead and make the text red. So I've selected it again. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to pick color. I'm going to pick red. I want to go up to the top. And I am done. I'm happy with that. I now have red text. Anytime I want red text, I just simply select it and then superscript it, and I've got my red text. This second one, I want to make a highlight. So I'm going to do essentially the same thing. This is the subscript. I'm going to select all subscripts, only in rich text box. I'm going to change the position to static, and I'm going to change the font size the same way, simply because it forces me to 16. There we go. We've got it. Now I want to actually set the background color. Now I can do this. You can notice that there are some constraints because this is an inline text item, and that's exactly what we want. We want it to flow and wrap with the text of the paragraph, so we want to keep that. But I cannot, for example, set upper and lower margins, and there are going to probably be some other minor constraints on styling. However, I can set the background color. So I'm going to go ahead and set the background color. I'm going to pick a yellow. I'm not too particular right now. You'll probably want to have this match your branding, your styling, and so on. So I've essentially got what I need. If I select some text, such as this, and I set it to H2, I have got a nice wrappable styled effect. However, you'll notice that the color starts right against the edge of the text, which doesn't look particularly natural. So one final thing I would suggest here is that you affect the left and the right padding and margins. And the way that I like to do it is I like to give this a padding of 0.1 EM, so 0.1 EM, and then I like to bring that spacing back in line with a negative 0.1 EM. And what you'll see that does is it prevents creating any additional white space because I don't like it, but it also gives me a tiny bit of margin for the yellow to just slightly overlap into that white space. I'm going to do the same thing on the right hand side, 0.1 EM, and again for the margin, negative 0.1 EM. And there we go. I've got the same thing. You can see that's already affected the one above it. You don't need much. I wouldn't overdo it, but it just helps it look a tiny bit, gives it a little bit of breathing room. And that's it. You've now got the ability to style text in your rich text areas freely.